The NFL is a dog eat dog business. It's not for the faint of heart. There aren't many professions, rather, where the guy that hires you ultimately gets fired because of you. And not in the sense of you didn't do your job, so it reflects poorly on the guy that hired you, and so that guy gets fired. No. You hire that guy. He does a really good job, kind of thinks you're sort of inadequate at your job, and then goes to the powers that be and tells them, hey, you should get rid of that guy. Damn. They smiling in your face all the time. They want to take your place. Them backstabbers. Backstabbers. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 303rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Got a nice little show lined up for you today. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing major here, man. It's what we do every Wednesday. We break down all the action from the week past and start to look forward to the action coming up in the upcoming week of football. And so that's exactly what we're going to do today. A little twist on the show today because we have some NFL news that we need to tackle. So we will do that. As a matter of fact, let's not delay. Let's get right to the proceedings this evening and let's dive into the Gem Droppin Session. So let's do it. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind. Let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, Jon Robinson, Titans GM, fired. And I was as shocked as most Titans fans were. Now, look, fans are fans for a reason. Fan is short for fanatic. And a lot of times fans are irrational. And when things don't go right, they want change and they want it now. Fire everybody. That's the famous term, right? That's the famous phrase. Fire everybody. Clean house. The offensive coordinator sucks. We need to fire him. The defensive coordinator sucks. We need to fire him. Half the people don't even know what they're looking at. But they know what they know, and they know that the results aren't what they're looking for. Something has to happen. So generally, in a situation where things are going poorly, you're looking to make a change, we could argue as to where the change needs to be made, whether it's the GM, you start at the top, or it's the head coach, or it's the offensive coordinator, the defensive coordinator. You know, maybe it's a subtle change, like you move on from a positional coach. But there's always enough blame to go around when things don't go well. Except in Tennessee, things actually aren't going poorly. They're actually going quite well, I may add. They're 7-5. They're going to win their division for the third consecutive season. They've had 6 straight winning seasons, all under former GM Jon Robinson. They've won pretty much since he's gotten there. They've been to the playoffs, I think, each of the last 3 years and 4 out of the last 5 years, all under GM Jon Robinson. The man was 23 games over 500. He was 66-43 at the time of his firing. Now, obviously, everyone on Twitter and social media went to town on the Titans and specifically Jon Robinson after the Eagles game. And the timing couldn't have been any worse when they decided to do this. And I find it hard to believe that the timing is ironic. Now, I told anybody that would listen, and you guys know if you've been watching me on this podcast, that the worst trade of the offseason was the A.J. Brown trade. For the Titans, you're a Super Bowl contending team. You trade away the one guy that makes you. Now, obviously, Derrick Henry is stellar. But guess what they did last year without Derrick Henry? They won a lot of football games to the tune of the #1 overall seed in the AFC in a first-round bye. They did all of that without Derrick Henry. Remember, he missed half of the season. And they had Deontay Foreman out there running the football and getting the job done. But the guy they couldn't live without was A.J. Brown. He was the force that drove that offense. And when they traded him, it made little to no sense because even though there was a contractual, squabble going on, and look, depending on who you listen to, A.J. Brown cut off all contact with the Titans, wanted to be traded. AJ says he would have taken X amount of dollars. The Titans say no, he never was willing to take that. Look, it's a he said, she said, or in this case, he said, or it could be he said, she said, because the Titans owner is a female. Look, at the end of the day, they moved on from AJ Brown. I thought it was a massive mistake because he gave their offense balance. You want to load up and stop the run, they throw a slant to AJ Brown. Good luck trying to tackle him. You want to load up the box? They go deep to A.J. Brown. Good luck with your corner one-on-one down the field with that monster. Now, they went and got Treylon Burks, but I said this in the moment, and Burks has actually looked good. I hated to see him get injured. We'll talk more about that when we get to the Titans and Eagles game, when we go slate skating, but he's a rookie, and he's raw, and you're looking to win now. So that trade didn't make a ton of sense other than you looking to save money. If you're trying to win a Super Bowl, money should be the last thing, especially when you've got Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. You're not paying Joe Burrow. You're not paying Patrick Mahomes. You're not paying Aaron Rodgers. You're not paying a premier quarterback, especially when it's Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. You shouldn't be penny pinching if you're trying to win a Super Bowl. As a matter of fact, he needs all the weapons he can get surrounding him to make his job easier, as we saw last year in the playoffs, which is why you went out and got Robert Woods. He was supposed to be a complement, a number 2 to A.J. Brown, not a number 2 to Treylon Burks. So I just thought the whole dynamics of the Titans got screwed up when they traded away A.J. Brown. But I guess the icing on the cake, or in this case, the nail in the coffin for GM John Robinson in Tennessee, was that game against the Eagles. It was a very in-your-face, brutal reminder of how you effed up. 35-10, 2 touchdowns by A.J. Brown, right in your face. He took off his towel and started beating him and whipping him like, hey, you got to pay for what you did. That's a no-no. Let me give you a spanking. It's hard not to connect the dots. And, Twitter and socials had a field day with that. Damn, A.J. Brown got John Robinson fired. A.J. Brown gets the last laugh. We saw all of the different headings, all of the different things on social media. That had something to do with it. Him being traded. That was not a smart move. However, that couldn't be just it. I mean, the timing of this is so weird because, again, it's not like the Titans are 3-9 right now, right? Going into week 14. Nobody saw it coming. I've talked about this. I said the Titans have one of the worst rosters offensively in football. Like, you take Treylon Burks out, and he was out for a vast majority of this season, and you look at what they were putting on the field, it's a miracle that they were winning football games. And I said, that's a testament to Mike Vrabel as a head coach. You guys know how I felt. I was talking about Mike Vrabel for head coach of the year because of the job he was doing with not a lot of talent. And that falls squarely in the lap of GM John Robinson. Now, John Robinson did a lot of good in Tennessee, which is why I'm still befuddled by his firing. But first of all, and again, we could argue who's more responsible for the success of the Titans over John Robinson's tenure. I'm not looking to do that because it's impossible to be able to to divvy up the credit that is deserved. Same thing we did with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. It's impossible to divvy up the amount of credit that goes to one or the other. They're both responsible for the success of the Titans over this 6-year period that John Robinson was in Nashville. I don't know if I ever recall seeing a GM 23 games over 500 being fired during a winning season or even after a winning season with that kind of a record. Generally, general managers are fired after they struggle and their record is something like 16-37 over the last 2.5 years, and they get canned in season, or it's been 3 straight years of struggling, like Dave Caldwell a couple of years ago in Jacksonville. They had enough, got rid of him during the season because he hadn't won in Jacksonville, not since 2017. They got rid of this man in the midst of another AFC South crown. They're going to win that division. Even if they don't want to, they're going to win that division. And all he's done since he's gotten to Nashville is win. Now, he's done some really good things. A lot of the players that he's drafted, he's done a pretty good job of. Not of late as much. We made a lot of fun of the pick of the Georgia tackle a couple of years ago. Caleb Farley hasn't really been healthy, so that's kind of been a miss. But for the most part, if we're keeping it a buck, he's drafted pretty well. A lot of his picks have panned out. And not only have his picks panned out, they've really been exceptional at times. I mean, obviously, it wasn't hard to pull the trigger on Big Jeff Simmons, as my guy MJ likes to say. But remember, if you have the ability to go back in time, that wasn't a chic pick because he had an off-the-field issue where he got into it reportedly with a female. And then he was coming off of a major injury to his knee. And so he wasn't Jeff Simmons was a top 5 talent in that draft that slipped to wherever the Titans were, 17, 19, wherever they were, because of the off-the-field stuff that some teams couldn't get past, even though I heard his story and I believed him. But again, that's not for me to decide. And the injury he sustained in his final year at, was he Texas A&M or Mississippi State? I think he was a Mississippi State Bulldog. So, easy to look back now and say, yeah, it's a simple pick, but it wasn't. He's one of the best defensive tackles. He's a top 3 tackle in the NFL right now. Kevin Byard, one of the best safeties in football. I mean, I love David Long at the linebacker position. I loved him coming out of West Virginia. The guy's been a stud for the Tennessee Titans. It allowed them to walk away from Jayon Brown in free agency. I could go on and on and on with the guys that they've drafted over the years. Even some of the guys that they let walk away, like Jack Conklin. Slam dunk first-round pick was Jack Conklin that they didn't retain, and he goes on to be like a 2-time All-Pro or whatever it is for the Cleveland Browns. He's had some injury issues at times, but when he's healthy, he's dominant. He's done some good things in the draft. He's done some solid things in free agency. Danico Autry, who's in Tennessee right now, huge pickup for them. Has been outstanding. But then he's had some misses in free agency. Just like the draft, but everybody's got misses in the draft. No one's perfect in the draft. He's got a bunch of misses in free agency. A lot of wasted free agency dollars. A Julio Jones trade that went awry. Vic Beasley didn't go well. Bud Dupree isn't necessarily going the best right now. He's not terrible, but it's not what they paid for. I could have told you that. When you traded for him, I'm like, yeah, I don't think you really want to do that. But they did it. They wanted a pass rusher. I mean, Harold Landry, before he got injured, he was turning into a stud. Again, there's enough good to outweigh the bad. You can pick whatever you want, and you can try to, make it bigger than what it is, or you can try to minimize. At the end of the day, he did enough to put the Titans in a position where people thought about them as a Super Bowl contender. No one was doing that before the arrival of John Robinson. There was an actual Super Bowl window, if you believe that. I never thought the Titans were winning the Super Bowl because you can't win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. You can try, just like the 49ers tried to win a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. If you're going to do that, you better have the number one defense in football, which the Titans don't. So you're not winning anything. Some of the argument is that he hitched his wagon to that of Ryan Tannehill, and that's why he got fired. I don't think that's the case. I've heard that argument from people, and it's a valid argument. I'm willing to listen, because if you hitch your wagon to Ryan Tannehill and you think he's going to take you to the promised land, you're sadly mistaken. However, that's not the reason that he got fired, I think. I think the reason he's no longer the general manager of the Tennessee Titans is because he didn't do enough on the offensive side of the football. He left them high and dry this offseason. When you decide to trade A.J. Brown, I look at it the same way the Chiefs approached their situation with Tyreek Hill. And I chastise the Packers for the exact same thing. And you look at where the Packers are right now, and it's not a coincidence. The one team that handled their star receiver being shipped off well is the team that right now is one of the best in football. And the other two teams that didn't handle their star receiver being shipped off are struggling. Now, the Titans aren't struggling as a team, but they're struggling on offense. And the Packers are just struggling overall. And it's not a coincidence. Because when you look at what the Chiefs did, they said, okay, Tyreek Hill no longer going to be a member of this team. What are we going to do? Well, we can't replace him with one guy. Too big of a factor to do that. You know what we're going to do? We're going to throw infinite resources at the position. We'll draft a guy. We'll go out and sign 3 or 4 free agents, and we'll replenish the position. And we'll go at it that way. Strength in numbers. Juju Smith-Schuster. Valdez-Scantling. Sky Moore. That's what we'll do. We'll throw multiple guys at that problem. What did the Packers do? They decided they were going to take, again, if you're in a Super Bowl window, you can't throw a bunch of young guys in the mix and expect them to come up big for you. It's too big of a moment. Young guys are supposed to come in and be able to learn at whatever their pace is. If a guy comes in and gets it immediately, good for him. The Chiefs would love it if Sky Moore came in and was putting up massive numbers, like some of his contemporaries around the league as rookies at the receiver position. But guess what? They don't need him to do that. Why? Because they've got other guys. They set it up that way so that he wouldn't have to come in and be relied upon. The Packers made a mistake. They thought they were going to go get Samuel Watkins, who can barely stay healthy. You think you're going to go get him as a veteran and he's going to help you solve your problem? You know Randall Cobb can't stay healthy. So you got 2 aging veterans who can't stay healthy and a bunch of rookies that they went out there and got. Torrey and Dobbs and the kid from North Dakota State, Christian Watson in the second round. You think you're going to throw all these rookies in there and there's not going to be a problem? You're a Super Bowl contending team. You think you're going to throw a bunch of rookies at the position that matters the most to your quarterback outside of his offensive line? Good luck with that. We've seen the struggles there. Aaron Rodgers was complaining all offseason before the season started, letting everybody know this is a problem. What did the Titans do? They trade away the one guy that scared you outside of Derrick Henry on their entire offense. They trade him away and they draft a rookie who is raw, not a guy that was polished, that came into the NFL as a A.J. Brown, right? A guy that was at Ole Miss, putting up big numbers in the SEC, cooking corners, and was ready to go day one. Not one of those guys, but a guy in the SEC that was raw, that they were manufacturing touches for and throwing deep balls to, and that was it. Wasn't a route runner, wasn't polished, needed work, needed refinery. This is the guy you're bringing in to replace A.J. Brown with no other help. Okay. The move to bring in Robert Woods was done before A.J. Brown was traded. That he was supposed to be a compliment. You didn't go out and get any other veterans. There were other guys available that you could have brought in. A Cole Beasley, for instance. I'm not saying Cole Beasley is great, but you needed a slot receiver. I've been saying that for ages, eons. And you went out and drafted Kyle Phillips, another rookie, and he was solid, but he's a rookie. So you're going to take this team, all right? You're going to move on from Jonnu Smith a couple of off seasons ago, and you're going to replace all of these guys. Austin Hooper comes in, and Okonkwo, who I actually like and think he has a chance to be really good, but rookie, nonetheless, aging veteran. And this is what you bring in, and you think that, and then Treylon Burke promptly gets hurt. And I'm looking at Westbrook-Akina, Robert Woods, Austin Hooper, and Chigwe Okonkwo, and I'm saying, this is what you're trotting out on the field. This is what teams are supposed to be afraid of. This is what teams are supposed to have to defend against. And that's why I said, wow. I mean, they needed a flea flicker against Denver. They needed a 61-yard broken play bomb against Washington. They needed like these ridiculous one-off plays to beat teams. And in that Washington game, needed a ridiculous goal line stand, essentially, to preserve the victory there. Like, how they were winning games, don't ask me. I couldn't tell you. But somehow they were getting it done. And Mike Vrabel, he looked around, and he's a player's coach. Remember, this is a guy that played in the league. He wants his guys getting paid. It's hard to find good players in this league, and when you got them, you want to hold on to them. And he's looking at his GM, and his GM is allowing guys to walk. Adoree Jackson, A.J. Brown. And he's looking around, and he's saying, what the hell is going on here? How did we get to this position? Why is Corey Davis not here anymore? So we're gonna let Corey Davis walk and bring in Robert Woods and pay him more money than Corey Davis? Does that actually make any sense? Is Robert Woods better than Corey Davis? Is that what you're telling us? Because I guarantee you, they would have been better off offensively if Corey Davis were still in Tennessee, even if A.J. Brown was no longer there, than having Robert Woods be your number one, your pseudo one, while Treylon Burks was out. But that's GM John Robinson's problem, is that he made executive decisions. I don't know if the coach was on board with a lot of them, and he was left to essentially pick up the pieces. When he made a move, when Robinson made a move, Mike Vrabel had to deal with it. Figure it out. Make it work. After a while of that, it gets old, it gets stale, and when you start getting your ass handed to you, 35-10 on the road against a team that's steamrolling teams, but more importantly, that's doing it with the guy that should still be in Tennessee, and we can barely score, we can barely move the football, it falls back on the GM. And I think, this is me hypothesizing, I don't know, I can't tell you that this is what actually occurred. I can't confirm nor deny this, but this is my inference. You know, I like to draw inferences, okay? If Mike Vrabel, who I just told you I think should be in consideration for head coach of the year, all right, if he goes to the owner and he says, look, know what? The owner comes to him and she says, I'm frustrated. And Mike Vrabel says, me too. And she says, I'm thinking about getting rid of John. What do you think? Mike could have easily said, nah, Amy, let's not, you know, fire off from the hip here. All right, let's settle down. Yeah, we got our asses handed to us, but let's be rational. A lot of things have contributed to this. It's not just John. let's wait till the offseason. And if you still feel the same way, then maybe you can make a move. We don't need to do this right now. Vrabel could have said that. And I don't know if he did say that or not. I don't think he did. I think Amy, Amy went to him. Amy's the owner. And she said, "Hey, Mike, thinking about firing John." And Mike's like, "He's the reason we're in this mess." And she's like, "Yeah, you're right." And Mike's putting extra sauce on it. The guy that kicked our ass today should be on our team right now. The guy that's playing well for the Jets should be on our team right now. And she's like, "Yeah, you're right. So what do you think we should do?" "I think you should do what you think you need to do." And she pulled the trigger. And I'm not saying that Mike Vrabel necessarily went to management, upper management, and said, "Hey, get rid of this dude," but I'm not saying he didn't do that. But I can tell you one thing, Mike Vrabel probably felt like, "Dude, you put me in a hell of a situation, a hell of a spot here, almost a no-win situation with what you've done to this roster offensively." Defensively, the Titans, even though they got their asses handed to them on Sunday, they're not a bad defensive football team. But offensively, they're in a position right now where their defense can't afford to give up much of anything because their offense just isn't scoring a bunch of points. So, anyway, I digress. Interesting stuff. I myself feel like that was a crazy way for the Titans to handle the situation. Not in season when you're 7-5 and about to win a division, but we'll probably hear more about this. We'll find out exactly what the hell happened after the fact. We'll see. Wanted to just touch on Odell Beckham Jr. real quick. So he's doing his world tour. Bills, Giants, Cowboys. He's going to make a decision here shortly. He was being wined and dined in Dallas. He was at the Mavericks game. They played the Suns a couple of days ago. He was there with Michael Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. And so I think I read something the other day that said that this dude may not be ready until January. There's a reason, just know this. There's a reason he doesn't want to work out for teams. He's not ready. And he's talking crazy this time around. Last time he did this, he was just looking to join a team, not looking for anything long-term, just looking to fit in, get some bread, get back to playing football, try to win a chip. He accomplished all of those things. But in the process of doing that, he got hurt again. And so you're telling me that you, Odell Beckham Jr., shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. So you, ODB, wants not only a contract, but a long-term deal. You want long-term commitment. I haven't seen you work out, not run a single route. And you haven't been healthy 2 years in a row. You've torn your ACL 2 times in the last 4 years, and you want me to give you a long-term deal. Whatever he's smoking, that's some good shit. And yeah, he made a huge difference for the Rams last year. That's one of the reasons, maybe the biggest reason they made it to the Super Bowl and won. He was on his way to winning Super Bowl MVP before he got injured. He was going to do that. It's a damn good football player. I'm not disputing that. But you be a damn fool if you give this man long-term, good long-term money with no outs, where you could really feel the damage. And I don't know what kind of contract he's looking for, or if he's okay with you putting in language that says, "Bro, if you get hurt, I'm going to need my money back." Or if you get hurt, I can void the rest of the deal with no penalty. We can just walk away, wash our hands of you, and move on. I don't know if he's okay with that kind of a language. I'm assuming he wouldn't be, because that's why he wants a long-term deal. so that no matter what happens in the event of injury, he's going to get his bread no matter what. If I'm the Giants, I may be willing to do that. Did you see their receiving core? You see who they're trotting out on the field? Yeah, I might be willing to cough it up for nostalgic reasons, but more importantly, because we don't have shit at receiver. But if I'm the Cowboys or I'm the Bills, I'm not giving this man a multi-year deal with a ton of guaranteed money when I haven't seen him play and the man hasn't been healthy for 2 consecutive years. I'm good on that. I'll pass. Thanks, but no thanks. So I find it interesting that teams are fawning over him, but I wonder if there's certain teams that have a limit to where they will go. And if someone else is willing to exceed that, you can have him. I don't know if this turns into a bidding war for him. Wherever he ends up, if he's healthy and he's right, he makes a massive difference. We can all acknowledge that. But when is he going to be 100%? When is he going to be right? And how much are you going to have to give up to get him to sign on the dotted line? That's the real question. Anyway, I digress. That's going to do it for the Gem Droppin Session. Let's go ahead and move on to Slate Skatin. Y'all know what to do. Put your skates on. About to mosey on around the NFL in week number 13 of the National Football League. And what a week it was. I told y'all last week on Friday, man, week 13 had some shit cooking up, man. They were cooking up crack for us. And they weren't cooking up that 17-5 crack. They had that 14-5 crack. I was like, whoa, this is some good stuff, man. I said 6 games were featuring teams at 500 or actually above 500 playing one another. Okay. And just about every one of those games lived up to the billing for the most part. And then you sprinkled in a couple of games that you really weren't expecting much from, and they turned out to be really good. So let's run through the slate of games in week number 13 on from Sunday. Can I just say something, because I'm not going to talk about Monday. I never do. But can I just say something about Monday night? I forgot all about Mark Ingram running out of bounds. I think he was hurt, but he could have gotten the first down and then run out of bounds. And he just runs out of bounds, takes a knee on the sidelines. And that's what brought up the 3rd and 1, because he apologized to his teammates, to the fans. He said, I'm sick. I can't believe that I did that. And I was like thinking back, and I was running the plays back, and I was like, oh, yeah. Because remember, I just went straight to the 3rd and 1 decision to throw the slant instead of running it. But the reason they were even in 3rd and 1 is because he caught that pass out in the flats, and he could have walked for the first down, and he just kind of jaunted out of bounds, a yard short, took a knee. I don't know if he came back in the game or not, but get the first down, dude. Like, he ran right in front of the sticks. It's not like the sticks were on the other side of the field. The stick was right in front of him. The marker was right there. And he just ran out of bounds casually, and they ended up short, and then they ended up not converting 3rd and 1, and they punted, and then all hell broke loose. Ouch. If I were a fan of the Saints, that's one of the things I would have been taught. I would have been livid. It's funny because I just glossed over that, didn't even mention it, and it wasn't even a big deal because I'm not a fan of the Saints. So I'm not paying attention to each and every single snap with the intent of, hey, this shit better work. I'm just watching the game as a casual, right? I'm just watching the game and watching to see if they can convert, keep the clock going. But I didn't even think about that play. That was a huge play. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to week 13. We start with Commanders Giants, a tie. Who doesn't love a tie? I doesn't love a tie. Okay, I hate ties. I don't even like wearing ties when I wear a suit. I hate ties. 20-20. This game finished in a tie. The worst part about the 20-20 finish is that both teams left the game feeling the exact same way. They were screwed by the officials. They should have won this game easily. They were the better team. and they can't believe they didn't win. These are two evenly matched football teams, but the Commanders really dominated this game. And they had opportunities. And just like the Giants had opportunities, right? The Giants can't. And I said the same thing when when the Commanders played the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't give a shit about the officiating. You know, Eagles fans were crying about the officiating, and there was a blatant face mask in that game when a fumble was forced. And I'm not giving that shit back. You can cry about it all you want. Yep, there was a missed call there. I don't care. It doesn't hurt me. But when you're on the other side of that, it sucks. But that's football. Like, I don't really get too bent out of shape about it, because just like the Eagles didn't lose that game because of that, missed call, there were other plays in the game. And, oh, yeah, don't get run on and get the football ran down your throat. That also helps. Don't lose time of possession by like 30 minutes. That would help too. But there were opportunities in this game for both teams, and they squandered them. Frustrating game. I don't want to get into the specifics. I've already done it enough. I am so over that 20-20 tie. I would just tell you, Washington jumped out to a 10-0 lead. The Giants roared back, scored 10 unanswered points, tied the game. The score was tied at halftime, 13-13. Washington fumbles on their opening possession of the second half. The Giants take over at the Washington 20-yard line, score like 5 plays later. It's 20-13. The Giants would not score another point the remainder of the game. The Giants at one point went 6 possessions, and they only had 2 first downs in the second half of this game. They didn't get their first down. They didn't get their third first down of the second half until overtime. So they were being dominated, the Giants, in the second half of this game. But Washington just couldn't get out of their own way, and the officials didn't make it any easier on them either with some of the calls that they made. But Washington had every opportunity. They squandered them, just like the Giants did. Stupid penalty by John Feliciano when the Giants were in a position to really put Washington behind the 8 ball, up 7 with 6 minutes left, with a first down at the Washington 32-yard line. You're essentially in field goal range at that point. You don't gain another yard, but don't lose any more yards. You're in field goal range. You make a field goal, let's say, with 4 minutes left. Washington's down 10 with 4 minutes left. The game's over. But Feliciano picks up a stupid, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, pushed them back to midfield. They ended up punting, and the rest is history. 20-20 final score. These two teams will meet again in Week 15 on Sunday Night Football. That game has been flexed to Sunday Night Football. Out goes Patriots, Raiders. In goes Commanders, Giants. The sequel will be massive. No matter what happens with the Giants game this week against the Eagles, whether they come into that game 8-4-1 or 7-5-1, just like the Commanders are, that game's going to be massive. The winner of that game, more likely than not a guarantee, but more likely than not, is going to make the playoffs as a bare minimum 7 seed. That's how big that game will be in Week 15. But we'll talk more about that when we get there. Steelers and Falcons. This was a fun game. I talked about some of the fun games of week number 13. This was one of them. I really didn't think the Steelers were going to go on the road and beat the Falcons. Clearly, I picked the Falcons to win this game. And this is why the Falcons are in the position that they're in, because they've had games like this season, i.e. the Saints game in week 1 when they were up 23-10 and ended up losing that game. Or I think it was 20. I think they were up 25-10 and ended up losing the game. Nope. I think it was 23-10. Whatever it was, they were dominating the Saints and ended up losing that game. I think it was 26-10 they were up, and they ended up losing that game like 29-26, whatever the case may be. They've had opportunities, especially at home. The Chargers game is another one that they let slip through their fingers at home, just like that Saints game earlier in the season. They've had their opportunities, and they haven't taken advantage. And this was another one. You get the Steelers at home, even though the Steelers are playing much better football now. They came into the game at 4-7. You needed to find a way to win this game. And instead, they let the Steelers come in, kind of control the tempo and the pace. Steelers were up 6-0, and the Steelers were up 16-6. And at that point, I was like, damn, I lost this game. But then the Falcons scored a touchdown right at the end of the third quarter. And I'm like, hey, okay, I got a shot here. And I'm like, the Steelers aren't scoring that many more points. So if you can just find a way to score one more touchdown, you're probably going to win. And that's what it ultimately boiled down to. It was 19-13. The Falcons had a drive going, and they had to settle for a field goal. They scored a touchdown on that drive. I think they're going to win this football game. But instead, they ended up settling for a field goal. And they got the football back once more, and then Mariota turned it over, threw a pick. And the Steelers, man, I'm telling you, Mike Tomlin, we do this shit every year with him when they don't have a good team, and we marvel at how he manages to keep the shit afloat. Here they are. We left them for dead at 3-7, and 2 weeks later, they were 2-6, and 3-6. And then they went on I think that was a home game against the Bengals. It was a home game against the Bengals, and they fought their asses off and ran out of gas in the second half and lost. And they dropped to 3-7. And look, they're dead. It's not like they're making the playoffs or anything, but we left Tomlin's, streak of, being at or above 500. We left that for dead at 3-7. And since they've won 2 in a row, both on the road, and now they're 5-7. I still don't think they're going to end up being, 500. But hey, man, I don't like betting against Mike Tomlin. I just know that much. Steelers are 5-7. The Falcons, more importantly, in their bad division, they're 5-8, and the Buccaneers were literally 3 seconds away from being 5-7, and the Falcons were, 3 seconds away from being a half game out of first place. Now, the Bucs are 6-6. They're 5-8, and their chances of making the postseason are continuing to dwindle with that loss. Packers at Bears. So disappointed in the Bears, but this is why they're 3-10, right? This is why games like this, they were up early in this game. It was 16-3. The Bears were up, and you're thinking, oh, they're going to do the same thing Detroit did to this Packers team. Packers go on the road, struggle against a divisional foe. And I said, if there's been any time that you're going to beat Aaron Rodgers, if you're the Chicago Bears, you're looking to snap a losing streak to the Packers, this is the time to do it. They're reeling. They're vulnerable. There was a question as to whether Aaron Rodgers would play in this game or not. He's banged up. You need to beat the Packers in this game. And they had every opportunity. They were up 16-3. They were up 19-10 in the fourth quarter. Going into the fourth quarter, they were up 19-10. And they blew it, man. Justin Fields threw like 2 ugly, back-breaking picks. And then they give up the touchdown catch and run at the end. The game was already decided at that point. They weren't going to win, but Jesus. Justin Fields, man, another ridiculous run. I think it was like 54 yards for a touchdown. How long was that thing? 55 yards early in this game. His legs are a problem. He's 20 of 25 for 254. Like, he actually played well, except for, and you can't say except for when it's 2 picks. Those are huge. And I think both of those picks turned into points for the Packers. So another missed opportunity for the now 3-10 Bears. Aaron Rodgers and company get the win, 28-19. They're now 5-8 on the season. Rodgers was okay. He wasn't great. 18 of 31, 182 and a touchdown. Really, it was the ground game that kept them in the game, and then the interceptions really gave them an opportunity to steal this game, and they ultimately did. Bears, you continue to build off of what Fields is doing, but you would love to see him minimize those turnovers. Jacksonville at Detroit. I told you guys going into this game, Jacksonville hasn't beaten an NFC opponent on the road in like 7 years. Something like that. It's ridiculous. I said they're not beating Detroit, man. Detroit's playing better football. They barely lost to the Bills. Jacksonville just came off of a big upset over Baltimore, but that was at home. I told you, anytime Jacksonville is going to upset someone, it's going to be at home. So this was going to be a tall order for them. They got their asses run in this game. I mean, this shit was not close. It was 30-6 right after the half. It was 23-6 at halftime. And I just remember watching this thing. At one point, I was like, get this shit off my screen. I had to turn it to the Packers-Bears game because I didn't have that on my TV at the moment. And so this was an ass thrashing. What I learned watching this game, and I didn't know this, is that the Lions have the best red zone efficiency in the league. But that doesn't surprise me because they score points, man. This is probably their, fourth time or fifth time this season scoring 30 or more. I'm curious now. This is 40. I don't think they've scored 40 this year. I think this is their first time scoring I lied. They did score for 40 earlier. They scored 30. They scored 38 in week 1 against the 35 against the Eagles, 36 the following week against the Commanders. They scored 45 against the Seahawks, but that was a loss. They scored 27 against the Dolphins. They scored 31 against the Bears earlier this season. They scored 31 against the Giants a couple of weeks back. And then they scored 40. Like, they can score the football. This hasn't been a problem for them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times they've scored north of 30. I would venture to say that there are whole divisions that haven't scored 30 or more points this season 6 times, collectively as an entire division. I would venture to say, like the AFC South, for instance, I would put that entire division together and say there aren't 6 performances from that entire division of 30 or more points. They have it by themselves. The Lions have been super efficient offensively when they're not turning it over, when they're getting out of their own way, when they're healthy, when Amon-Ra St. Brown plays and they've got a full complement of guys. They're dangerous, man. When DeAndre Swift is playing, they're dangerous. And they destroyed the Jags 40-14. Somebody told me, hey, if they beat Minnesota this week, look out for the Lions. I'm not looking out for the Lions. They're 5-7, okay? Their season is done. They had their opportunities. They didn't get it done. They're not coming back and finding a way to weasel their way into a playoff spot. Jets at Vikings. This ended up being a really good game. At one point, I thought the Vikings were going to run away and hide. It was 20-3 at one point, and I was thinking to myself, okay, I picked the Vikings. My dad had picked the Jets, so I was feeling really good, because my first half games were not going well. What ultimately saved me was the second half games. I was excellent in the second half. And so I really needed this game. And when they were up 20-3, I was feeling really good. I was feeling really good early because Washington was up 10-0. And then the Jets were down, or the Vikings were up 20-3. The Bears were up 16-3. I was feeling really good. And then shit turned. Okay. Washington tied. The Bears lost. The Vikings started to struggle. I mean, the Jets had the football 2 or 3 different times with a chance to win this game, and they just couldn't. I mean, I didn't think, but this is what the Vikings have done this season. I've said this already. They allow teams to hang around. They've won a lot of close games this season. They're a good football team, but they live dangerous. They live dangerously. I'll just say that. Mike White threw 2 picks, but boy, he kept them in the game. You never want to see a guy that just came off the bench a few weeks ago throw it 57 times, but that's what he did. Garrett Wilson had 8 catches for 162 yards. They had no answer for him. This Jets team, they're gaining confidence. And I'll just say this. They're a much better offense with Mike White under center than that of Zach Wilson. I don't think I need to explain that to you. You look at the last 2 weeks where he started and you look at the offensive output. You'd like them to score more than 22. They had every opportunity to do that in this game. But the offensive firepower that they have in Corey Davis and Garrett Wilson, they've got 19 tight ends. They're all good. You look at, Elijah Moore. They got a lot of stuff that they can get the football to. They had 486 yards of total offense, did the Jets in this game. 486. It wasn't for a lack of offensive firepower. It's a lack of being able to get into the end zone. You got to credit the Vikings. I always tell you, if you want to know why the outcome of a game was reached, go to the red zone. And this game is one of the most crazy red zone stat games that kind of just hammers home the point of just get it done in the red zone, man. The Vikings were 3 of 3 in the red zone in this game, and they didn't turn the football over. Those are the two stats that I tell you. If you want to know why someone won or lost, just go to those two stats. It usually tells you the story. Vikings 3 of 3 in the red zone, no turnovers in the game. The Jets 1 of 6. I repeat, 1 of 6 in the red zone with 2 turnovers. And they only lose the game by 5. Just score one of those touchdowns and the game is different. It would at least allow you to go for 2 and tie it up. You score 2 touchdowns and you win outright. Yikes. But I'm telling you, they were moving the football on the Vikings, and I was scared. I'm not going to lie to you. I was scared shitless. I thought I was going to lose that game. They got inside the red zone. They had plenty of time. It's 1st and goal from like the 9, and they could, just like all day long, they could not get in the end zone. Vikings preserved the victory and win. And I want to say they got a pick at the end of the game and salted away 27-22. Yikes. They're now 10-2. Don't look now, but the Vikings are 10-2 and still in heavy pursuit of the 11-1 Philadelphia Eagles. Remember, the Eagles owned the tiebreak over the Vikings, beating them in week 2, 24-7. So the Vikings would have to finish one game better than the Eagles to get the number 1 seed, but they are not taking their foot off the gas. Speaking of the 11-1 Eagles, I could not have been more wrong about this football game. I really thought Tennessee had a chance. Now, in my defense, I assumed Tennessee would have their budding star receiver, Treylon Burks, who was coming on, had been playing his best football of the year, was starting to show why they drafted him, spent the pick that they did, traded away A.J. Brown and selected him. And the one touchdown they scored in this game, guess who it came from? You guessed it, Treylon Burks. He took a shot to catch that football. I don't even know how he hung on to it. And it's that hit that knocked him out of the game. And they were never the same after that. They didn't stand. Like, I felt really good about them having a chance with him, Okonkwo, and Derrick Henry, who they did shut down in this game. But I'd like to think that with the reason they were so aggressive against Derrick Henry is because they didn't respect anything that the Titans had in at the receiver or tight end position. And that's part of the reason that I just had that whole conversation with you about John Robinson. I think that's why he got fired, because they didn't have enough on offense this season. And it's really put a damper on what is a quality Titans football team. They just don't have enough around Ryan Tannehill. And so if Treylon Burks doesn't get hurt, I think they're going to have a chance in this football game. Once he got hurt, they really had no reason to respect the Titans pass game. Who's going to hurt you at that point? Who's going to hurt you? CJ Board? Jeff Swain? Nick Westbrook-Akina? Who's going to hurt you? Is it going to be Dontrell Hilliard at the running back position? Is it going to be Austin Hooper? Like, who's going to hurt you? They didn't have anybody. They needed Treylon Burks, and if he was out there, that would have given them a chance. The Eagles kicked their ass. I mean, after watching the game, though, I think the outcome might have been significantly different, but I don't know if it's in favor of the Titans, even if he plays. Like, they would have had a problem dealing with Treylon Burks. I'll just say that, especially without Chauncey Gardner-Johnson back there patrolling. They were going to have some problems. I truly believe that, but we'll never know. And they were all over Tannehill's ass. They shut down Derrick Henry, and their offense went to work. A.J. Brown We talked about this already. Had a field day, 8 catches, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had one called back, and then the very next play, same exact thing happened. This time it was good. Devontae Smith, 5 catches, 102 yards. Jalen Hurts strengthening his MVP candidacy, even though I still don't think he wins it. But 29 of 39 for 380 and 3 touchdowns. By far and away his best day as a passer in this league. He was phenomenal in this game as the Philadelphia Eagles steamroll the Tennessee Titans 35-10, improved to an NFL best 11-1. Titans dropped to 7-5, but that was an emphatic ass whooping, and just another example of why the Eagles are so dangerous, because if they can start stopping the run consistently, and again, I think they were able to stop the run in this game because they don't like. I was jealous watching them because they did what I wanted my team to do against Derrick Henry, because once there's no, and we didn't play Treylon Burks, so we had nothing to worry about. There was no one to keep us honest. I thought we should have been super aggressive at the line of scrimmage. The Eagles threw caution to the wind and absolutely disrespected the Titans in the secondary. They put 8 guys in the box at all times and said, "We dare you to beat us with anybody other than Derrick Henry. It won't be him." Broncos at Ravens. This was an ugly game, but it was an exciting finish. Typical Denver Broncos football. Ugly game, exciting finish that Denver usually is on the wrong end of. It happened again. Broncos lose this game 10-9. Lamar Jackson gets hurt in the second quarter of this game. Tyler Huntley comes in, and he's doing all kinds of crazy shit. He's running around. He's throwing picks. He's doing the Tyler Huntley shit, right? The shit that everybody's like, "Hey, we don't need Lamar Jackson. We got Tyler Huntley." Okay. 27 of 32 for 187 yards and an interception. So essentially what I just told you is dink and dunk city, run around, 10 carries, 41 yards and a touchdown, and the game-winning touchdown. Run around, dink and dunk, hang in there, and steal one at the end. That's what he did. I felt so bad for the Denver Broncos defense. I mean, listen to this. I think they forced like 3 turnovers in this game. Let me check. They forced 2 turnovers in this game. They gave up 285 yards of total offense. They held the Ravens to 3 of 13 on third downs. They held the Ravens to 1 of 2 in the red zone. Unfortunately, the one was the game-winning score, but they did everything they could do, and the offense is just so bad. Russell Wilson and that offense is just grotesque. Oh my God. That shit was Medusa, man. Hard to watch. God, Russell Wilson in this offense stinks. Yikes. Poor Denver Broncos defense. We've talked about this already. If they would have scored 16 points in every game in regulation this season, they would be something like, I think the number is like now 10-3. I think they would be, or I think it was 9-3 they would be right now. If they just scored 16 points in regulation, they'd be 9-3. Instead, they're now 3-9 after the 10-9 loss. And that touchdown was scored with every bit of like 30 seconds. Let me see, 28 seconds left. I mean, poor Broncos defense, man. Ravens, I'm going to just tell you right now, the Bengals are going to win that division. The Ravens are not a good football team right now. They barely escaped Carolina. These are home games, mind you. And I get it that the game against Carolina, howling and gusting winds, I don't care. You barely escaped Carolina. You barely escaped the Denver Broncos. You lose to Jacksonville. I'm just not feeling this Ravens football team. And that was before Lamar Jackson got injured. He's now hurt. I think the prognosis is a sprained something, MCL, something like that. Whatever it is, he's going to be out for at least 3 weeks, sounds like. So, Tyler Huntley, it's your show. Let's see who they play in the next, we'll call it 2 games. Ravens playing the Steelers this week at Pittsburgh. Steelers are favored in that game. That's how they feel about the Ravens right now. I told you the Ravens are struggling. Steelers are playing good football. At the Browns after that, and then home for the Falcons, and then maybe you get Lamar Jackson back for that January 1st tilt against the Steelers at home. We'll see there, but they're 8-4. This is the same shit that happened to them last year. If you recall, they were, I think, 7-3, and Lamar Jackson got hurt, and they didn't win another game, or they were 8-3. Lamar Jackson got hurt, and they didn't win another game, and they missed the playoffs. We'll see what happens, but same shit. Couldn't have happened at a worse time for Lamar either, because he hasn't gotten his bread yet. And I was a big fan of a Lamar. They offering you a lot of money, bro, a lot of guaranteed money. Just take it, bro. We don't know what's going to happen with your knee. Just take the money. It's not a serious injury, but it's another reason for the Ravens to think long and hard about giving this man what he's asking for. I don't think that situation is going to end well. But he's not leaving the Ravens. They're not allowing him to walk. They're going to franchise tag him. Speaking of the Browns, who they play in 2 weeks, Browns get the win over the Houston Texans 27-14. Talk about an ugly game. This is what this was. The Texans at one point led this game 5-0 after a safety of Nick Chubb gave them a 5-0 lead. There were so many crazy occurrences. First of all, shout out to the Cleveland Browns, or rather the Houston Texans fan base. Or should I say, in the words of Dak Prescott, credit to them. Credit to them for booing Deshaun Watson on every single snap from the very first to the very last of this game. That takes dedication. Your team sucks ass. You've got no reason to even be at NRG Stadium on a Sunday. Watson shows up, and your one primary goal is to go there and boo. You know your team's going to lose. You know they suck. You got Kyle Allen at quarterback. Your only purpose is to show up and boo for 4 quarters, and they were relentless. I got to give them credit. Credit to them. Credit to them. Because in the NBA, when a guy does something you don't like, or he said something in the media, every time he touches the basketball for the first quarter and a half, 2 quarters, you boo him like hell. I mean, boo the shit out of him. Loud boos. But by the 3rd quarter, you're like, man, F that dude, man. I don't give a shit. I'm chilling now. You ain't booing him no more. They literally booed the draws off of Deshaun Watson for 4 quarters. Credit to them. That said, they suck. They give up a punt return for a touchdown in this game. They give up a pick 6. They turned it over like 97 times. Let's see. I think they had at least 4 turnovers in this game. Yeah, they turned it over 4 times. Watson wasn't much better. The Browns turned it over twice. Watson was awful. He threw a pick in the end zone. I mean, he wasn't good, but what did you expect? The man hasn't played a single snap of NFL professional tackle football in over 2 years. So I expected him to look rusty. I expected him to miss some throws. I expected him to be a bit out of sorts. And he was all of those things. So I wasn't shocked that he looked the way that he looked. But my God, the Texans are bad. And they've had their moments where they've looked like a real NFL outfit, but they didn't look like one on Sunday. Donovan Peoples-Jones with a punt return. I swear I would love to take Desmond King off their hands. He almost had a kickoff return for a touchdown, or it was a free kick, rather, after the safety. He almost took that back. It was the nastiest cut he made on that play and almost took it the distance. He tripped over his own feet, or he might have been gone. Boy, I'd love to take him off their hands. I don't know if he signed a 1-year deal in the offseason or if he signed a multi-year deal. I love me some Desmond King. God, I would love to take him, especially when you don't have a return man on your team. Boy, a guy like Desmond King is like music to your ears. Anyway, I digress. The defense dominated the game, and they win 27-14. They'll be better. Watson will get better. He'll progress slowly. He was 12 of 22 for 131 yards and an interception. He wasn't good in this game, but I didn't expect him to. It was the perfect first game for him to come back. Had they played anybody but the Texans, anybody, Jacksonville, doesn't matter, Carolina, they would have got, if they would have went to Carolina with this effort, they would have got their ass run out of the building. Carolina would have beat them like 27-10. That defense would have smothered Deshaun Watson's ass. They wouldn't have turned it over as many times. They would have gone and taken this shit on the road anywhere else but Houston. They would have gotten their ass run out of the building. But they went to Houston, so they were able to get away with it 27-10. They're now 5-7 on the season. And with that loss, the Houston Texans have all but assured that they will have the number 1 pick in the 2023 NFL draft. Seahawks and the Rams. Wow, what a game this turned out to be. This is why I love family business, because you just throw records out of the window. None of that shit matters. I know you, you know me. It's about who's going to out execute who. And for 3.5 quarters, the Rams were out executing the Seattle Seahawks with John Wofford at quarterback. They had their chances, did the Rams, in this game. They even the Seahawks even lost their running back in this game. The back and forth between Kenneth Walker III, which it sucks because he's been playing so well. He's so dynamic. He sprained his foot and he's going to be out for probably at least the next 2 to 4 weeks. It's a shame what's happened to that running back class, because both of those guys, the first 2 backs taken, ridiculous starts to their career, and both suffered injuries. Now Walker's is nearly as serious as the one that the Jets rookie running back sustained earlier with the torn ACL. But the funny part about this game, my favorite part about this game, is the back and forth between DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey. They can't stand each other. And so it's similar to the hate. And this, you only get this in family business. You only get this in family business. This can only fester when you see a guy twice a year for multiple years. This shit can't happen once every 2 or 3 years, or I saw you in the playoffs, but I'm not going to see you for another. Like, this can only happen like Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore. That shit can only happen when I see you twice a year, every year for 3-4 years. That's what's going on with DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey. They can't stand each other. And so they get physical and violent, and, you know, ball isn't even coming their way, and they're ready to scrap. Ramsey picked up a personal foul penalty on one play. Metcalf, you know, he's a big boy, but Ramsey isn't backing down, so they're going at it. One time, Metcalf is going in motion, and Ramsey's asking him, "Where you going? Where you going? You bitch?" And he waves to him like, "Bye," as he's running in motion across the field. It's hilarious. And I just love when guys, you know, because you don't see that anymore in the NFL. Everybody's swapping jerseys. Everybody's best friends, you know, off the field. And I'm not saying I want it to return to the 80s and 70s when teams absolutely abhorred one another. I don't care about that shit. But it's always nice when dudes like genuinely don't like each other, and they don't like each other. So, but Metcalf torched them. And I never understand, you know, this Rams philosophy that they have with Raheem Morris, where they've got Jalen Ramsey playing this, they call it the star position. I think they call it star, but he's all over the field, right? Slot, down by the line of scrimmage, but he's not following the other team's best receiver, and they're getting their asses ate up by the other team's best receiver. Isn't this why you have Jalen Ramsey? So that you don't have these problems? DK Metcalf in this game, 8 catches, 127 yards, 8 targets, 8 catches, 127 yards, and a touchdown. The game-winning touchdown. And Ramsey was on him, draped all over him for that game-winning touchdown, and he caught it anyway. And, of course, he got up and talked some shit, too. Tyler Lockett, 9 catches, 128 yards. I want to say it was my guy. Damn, I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. But he asked me, is it time to move on from Tyler Lockett? I'm like, what? No. 9 for 128 and a touchdown. Like Tyler Lockett's playing exceptional football. Why would you move on from him? Anyway, Seahawks pull it out late. That DK Metcalf touchdown had to come with every bit of like a minute left in the game. It came with 36 seconds. So they were down 23-20 with the Seahawks, and they had to work for it, but they got it done. Bad teams find a way to lose games, and the Rams did exactly that. They're now 3-9. They claim Baker Mayfield off of waivers. I don't know what that means, but okay. I really feel like they did that just to make sure the 49ers, because as a team, you don't know who put in a claim for who. All you know is if I put in a claim, I've got first rights over, teams behind me because of my record. So I think the Rams and Sean McVay were still salty over the Christian McCaffrey ordeal. Remember, they wanted McCaffrey and the 49ers outbidded them. And that's how the 49ers got their hands on McCaffrey. And I think Sean McVay is still salty. And he was like, they might want Baker. I'm going to be petty and I'm going to just go ahead and – I mean, look, their quarterback situation is in the dumps. So they could use Baker. I mean, I don't know what that's going to do with 4 games. What do they have left? 5 games left on the season. I don't really know what Baker Mayfield coming in at this point is really going to do for you. He's not under a long-term deal. It's not like you're inheriting a long-term contract. He's a free agent after the season. So I really, truly think they did that out of spite, just to make sure if the 49ers were interested, which we later found out, and we always do with these waiver claims, the 49ers didn't put in a waiver claim, which I knew was going to happen. I told you guys after the Sunday night game, I'm like, or after the Monday night game, excuse me. I'm like, it wouldn't make any sense for the 49ers to put in a waiver claim, or it might have been after the Sunday night game. Doesn't make any sense for them to put in a waiver claim. Baker doesn't know the offense. We've already seen that movie where Baker's trying to learn an offense on the fly. We saw it with Carolina this year. How'd that go? The guy that's at quarterback right now Brock Purdy's going to give them the best chance to win because he knows the offense. He's been there all year. So I really think the Rams did that out of spite. And it turns out the 49ers didn't even put in a waiver claim for him. So it doesn't matter. They lose this game. They're 3-9. More importantly, the Seahawks are 7-5. If the playoffs started today, they'd be in. And they're still 1 game behind the 49ers. And they play them at home in 2 weeks on Thursday Night Football. So, and they've got the Panthers this week, who are on a bye, coming off of a bye, well-rested, all that good stuff. But the Panthers haven't won a game this season on the road. So I would surmise that Seattle's going to be in pretty good shape to win that game and then set up a massive matchup, whether the 49ers win or not, massive matchup on Thursday Night Football in Seattle for the right to call yourself first place in that division. Anyway, I digress. Seahawks are 7-5. Another big game in week 13 was Dolphins 49ers. This was one that I think a lot of us wanted to see. A lot of us wanted this flexed to Sunday Night Football in the place of Cowboys Colts. We did not get our wish, but what we did not see happening was Jimmy Garoppolo going down with an injury that we initially thought was a season-ending injury. Turns out it's not a season-ending injury. He avoided a Liz Frank injury, which would have put him on the shelf for the remainder of the season. But it is a sprained foot, and so he will be out 6 to 7 weeks, they said. A bare minimum of 6. 7 is probably the earliest he could be back. I think I saw that 7 weeks is the divisional round of the playoffs. I think. I'm not sure. Either way, there's hope for the 49ers. They just got to get there. That's all they got to do is just got to buy time until they can get back. Well, they did a hell of a job of buying time in this particular game. This game had everything. The very first play of the game is a 75-yard touchdown for the Dolphins. And I'm thinking, hell yeah. I mean, I already knew the outcome. Had I been watching this live, I would have been thinking, hell yeah, because I picked Miami. Hell yeah. All right. That's what I'm talking about. Former San Francisco 49er, Trenton Sherfield, gone. First play of the game. Right over the middle. it would be the most accurate pass Tua Tagovailoa would throw on the afternoon. He was awful. And I'll just tell you this, he looked rattled. I haven't seen Tua look that scared since he was playing against like LSU, at Bama, when they were coming after his ass and he could barely run and you just wanted to get rid of the football. He was on on a bum ankle. He looked scared, like genuinely scared of that 49ers defense. His feet were happy. He was antsy. He was missing throws that he'd been hitting all year long. These weren't hard throws either. He made a lot of them difficult with his movement because he was moving too much. He threw some costly interceptions, and it was just because of his inaccuracy. Him just not settling down and doing the things he had done this season prior to this game to get them to 8-3 and then, number one spot in the AFC East division. But he did not look like the guy we had seen all season long. And the 49ers took advantage of that. They harassed him. They hit him. Bosa and ultimately knocked him out of the game late. He did not finish this game. I mean, if he had to, if this game were in the balance, he could have come back in the game. But the real story of this game isn't the Dolphins, even though they didn't play their best football. The story of this game was the 49ers and the injury to Jimmy G and the subsequent legend of Brock Purdy that has begun, right? The first chapter of the Brock Purdy story has been written, and what a start it was. I mean, this guy comes in off the bench, cold as ice. He's a cold as ice, willing to sacrifice. And he comes in this game 25 of 37 for 210, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. But man, did this guy have some brass ones when he came in this game. He was slinging this thing all around the field. He was getting height. The players rallied around him. You could see it. They were feeding off of his energy. There was a lot to like about his performance. Now, again, I don't know if it's sustainable. A lot of people are just assuming, oh, this is what they're going to get every week. Well, this could be a sign of things to come, or it could be just the Dolphins were caught off guard by this guy coming in the game, not super mobile, but more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo. And, they didn't really know what to do, whether to, blitz him, zone, man is his kryptonite. Like, we'll learn more about Brock Purdy in 2-3 weeks. There'll be film out there. We'll see how he, plays and performs against certain looks and coverages. Maybe he throws it better, to the right than he does to the left. Maybe he's more comfortable seeing the field and man when he can see a guy breaking open versus zone. Trust me, in 3 weeks, there will be a book out on Brock Purdy and a game plan prepared for him. And maybe he won't look this good. But boy, did he ever against the Dolphins. I was impressed. But Mr. Irrelevant was very relevant in this game as he leads the San Francisco 49ers. Big touchdown throw to Christian McCaffrey late in this ball game. The touchdown late really made this thing look like it does. This final score doesn't really indicate how close this game really was. But it was a big touchdown throw by Brock Purdy on a 3rd down, no less, to Christian McCaffrey that really put them in the position. 17-10 was when he threw that touchdown pass. It was 10-10, 4 seconds left, right before halftime. Great, poise and great decision to get it to McCaffrey for the touchdown. And then after the Tyreek Hill touchdown, it's 23-17. They're right back in this thing. But Purdy made plays, got them back down the field. They ran the football effectively. They win this game 33-17. 49ers are 8-4. 49ers are 8-4. And they've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week coming to Santa Clara. They can take care of business there. Whether they win or lose, it's going to set up a massive showdown. Week 15, Thursday. Week 15 is going to be a dandy. Week 14 sucks ass. It is a terrible slate. It's one of the worst weeks of football that I've seen this season. And it's not close. I mean, it's bad. Some bad football, man. Week 15 is going to be off the chain. But did I just say off the chain? Oh, my God. I'm getting old. Can't believe I just said that. Oh, my God. I'm so mad at myself. I'm disappointed. I can't believe I just said that. Chiefs at Bengals. This was another game that I knew was going to be good. I was on the right side of this. One of the games that I ultimately saved my ass in week number 13. Bengals improved to 8-4 in the season. I told you they're going to win that division in the AFC North with the Ravens struggling. They get the win 27-24. Burrow improves to 3-0 over Patrick Mahomes. He's the only quarterback in the league that can make that distinction, that he's undefeated against Mahomes. This was a really fun game to watch. These two teams, you could tell the Chiefs really wanted this one, and they just fell short. Big fumble in this game by Travis Kelce. That the most underrated unit in football is the Bengals defense, specifically their pass defense. They get after the quarterback. They don't have a star on that defensive line. There isn't one guy that jumps out at you who has, Trey Hendrickson actually is. He had like 16 sacks last year or whatever, but it's just a collective effort, man. They got a bunch of guys they throw at you. Joseph Osai with a big play on Mahomes late in this ball game. As I mentioned, Trey Hendrickson. They got the kid from Ohio State on one side of the field as well. And they just got a bunch of guys in the secondary, and they just play good football, man. Sound football. I love their linebackers. They don't make a lot of mistakes defensively. They're very fundamentally sound, and they got it done in this game, man. This was a fun one. This one came down to the wire because Mahomes, runs for a touchdown and gives the Chiefs a 24-17 lead. This is their first lead. 17-14 was their first lead. That didn't come to the third quarter. Like the Bengals jumped out on these boys 14-3. Like they were dominating them. And then they storm back 2 consecutive touchdowns, 14 unanswered points, take the lead 17-14. The Bengals come back tied up 17-all. And then a big play in this game was Harrison Butker misses a field goal. And I thought from that point forward, the Bengals kind of seized control of this football game. And Burrow, when they had to have it, not only when they were down, he took them down the field and they scored, but then the Chiefs gets the missed field goal, right? I just talked about the missed field goal. They get the football back, and that would have tied the game up at 27. They get the ball back, and there's roughly like 3, maybe 4 minutes left, 3.5, 4 minutes left, and they got to get 2 first downs. They get 2 first downs, and this game is essentially over. And I think they need 3 first downs, excuse me. They get 3 first downs, the game's over. And they get 1 first down, then they go to Jamar Chase twice, and on 3rd and like 4, they throw a screen to Jamar Chase. He breaks a tackle, powers through a guy, dives, gets the first down. And then on the next set of downs, Joe Burrow throws a strike. I'm talking about a slant strike with the defender draped all over T. Higgins for the first down. And then they took knees. And it pays to have a guy like Joe Burrow, man. He ran 2 in this game. Let me see how many yards rushing. It wasn't a lot, but they were some big rushes in this game for Burrow, man, to keep drives alive. Burrow had 11 rushes for 46 yards, man. He ran it a ton in this game. I was impressed with him using his legs, even had a touchdown run. Like, you could tell both of these teams wanted this game bad, and I wouldn't be shocked if these two teams saw each other again. That's some big-time football. Bengals get it done. They're 8-4 and tied atop the AFC North with the Baltimore Ravens. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Chiefs are now 9-3 and no longer hold the number 1 seed in the AFC. That distinction now belongs to the team that beat them earlier this year in the Buffalo Bills. And then lastly, another game that I absolutely had to have, and I got it, was the Raiders over the Chargers 27-20. I told you guys the Chargers are such a disappointing team, and these are the types of games that they lose. And I told you exactly why they would lose. They cannot stop the run. And Josh Jacobs is having a magnificent season. I'm actually anxious to check and see where he is in rushing. Feels like he should be leading the league in rushing, and he is. Guy's got 1,303 yards on the season. He's a madman. We all know what he did against the Seahawks a week ago, over 200 yards rushing, the longest rush in the NFL this season with the 86-yarder in overtime, 320 yards of all-purpose offense for Josh Jacobs in that ball game against the Seahawks. He followed that up with another great performance, 26 carries, 144 yards, and a touchdown in this game to help lead the Vegas Raiders over the Los Angeles Chargers. Justin Herbert, what more can I say? Man, he doesn't have a lot of help. They don't run the football in LA for the Chargers. He's got to do it all himself. He's been doing it with a banged up group of receivers. The offensive line is in shambles. The man threw it 47 times in this game. There was a 4th and 12. They're down in this game 20. I want to say it's 27-13. They're down. This thing's over, right? Or it might have been 20-10. Something along those lines. Let me check. I don't have to guess. I got it right here in front of me. It was 27-13. And it's 4th and 12 from the Raiders' 35-yard line. And look, if the Raiders, for all intents and purposes, they get this stop, the game's over. Okay, they're up 14. It's desperation city. They haven't really done anything all day long. That's why they're stuck on 13 points. We're at the 9-minute mark of this game. You stop them here, you're going to get solid field position. Even if you don't gain another yard, you flip the field position and you make them have to do it all over again, right? They need 2 touchdowns. That's going to eat up a ton of clock. And Herbert rolls out to his right. I mean, guys are bearing down on him, and he throws an absolute ridiculous teardrop to Keenan Allen in the back of the end zone from 35 yards out. And you're just looking like, what the F, dude? That's Justin Herbert, man. It's a shame that they don't have more around him. I've been crying and screaming about them needing to do more around him. And it's not like the guys they have suck. Like Joshua Palmer stepped up this year, but now Mike Williams is hurt. Keenan Allen just got back like 3 weeks ago. Austin Eckler is Mr. Do It All, Mr. Do Everything, but they don't run the football. So it's still on Herbert no matter what. They got to be better, man. He deserves better, and he should be winning. We keep talking about Herbert being one of the best quarterbacks, but he hasn't touched the postseason, and he's not going again this year. Something must be done, and I think it might be their boy wonder, genius of a head coach who ultimately is responsible here. And I don't know, maybe their GM, Tom Telesco, might be on the hook this time as well. We will see. But that concludes week number 13 in the National Football League. I told you that week 14 is going to be abysmal. It starts just as funky as it gets. Raiders at Rams. A wise woman once asked me, Raiders and Rams? Who want that? I don't. I can't speak for y'all, but I don't want that. But that's Thursday Night Football. I'm normally I give you a breakdown and analysis as we get to our final segment of the show in garbage time. I'm not doing that. It's Raiders Rams. What do you want me to do? They got Baker Mayfield. Is he going to play in this game? Highly unlikely with this game being on Thursday. Had this game been on Sunday, maybe. Who cares? Josh Jacobs for 175. That's what I'm looking forward to. Raiders will win the game. I can give you that. They'll win the game. Good for the Raiders. They were 2-7 at one point this season. Looked like they were going to be in the top 5 of the draft. They've rattled off 3 in a row. They're going to win again. They may finish with a winning record when it's all said and done. We'll see. Anyway, I digress. Got a couple of super chats that I need to get to before we get out of here. And the first of which is from my guy, Rosario Satara Polowski. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. who writes, hey, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, here is the complimentary super chat for my second textbook on Amazon about cinema. Prints and ships from Amazon. I emailed you the name of the book last week. Thanks for making the fan experience better. Shout out to my guy for publishing his second book. I love it, man. And I'm going to see that email. I'm going to read that email. I'm going to give you a shout out too, man. I'm going to make sure I tell everybody to go get your book. Really appreciate you, as always. My guy, Russ. We go way, way, way back. Rosario Satara Poleski. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you once again. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, make sure to select paperback version in Amazon. It's $22. Paperback version ships in a few days. Looking forward to new LTN hoodies. You've told me. I know you're looking forward to them, as am I. I am working on that this week with Washington being on a bye. I am going to try to make something happen here shortly. So just hang tight. I know I've been saying that. I mean it this time. Okay. So thank you for that. Anyway, that is it. I appreciate you guys greatly for joining the kid here on the 303rd installment of the Louie T Network podcast. For those of you who are fans of Commanders, the Giants, even though Bad Dog may not show up, I think I'm going to get him to show up at some point. Don't hold your breath. Just assume that he's not coming. And if he does, it'll be a pleasant surprise. But LB and Law will be in the building. I've got 3/4 of the Super Friends uniting as one. Should be fun. So come out, rep your squad tonight as we talk about the only division in the National Football League with all 4 of their teams currently above the Mendoza line. And so that'll be tonight. So if you're interested, whether you're a fan of any of those teams or you're just a fan of the Louie T Network and want to, stop by and see what's really good, come join us. Should be a ton of fun. For the rest of you, I'll see you on Thursday night for that game that I just mentioned that we will not mention again. And for the rest of you who aren't interested in that, I'll see you on Friday for another installment of the Louie T Network podcast. Until then, you guys, enjoy the rest of your evening, and I look forward to chopping it up with you whenever I see you. I see you when I see you. God bless, and good night. Louie T.